Hope you're all well. So, today's date, Sunday, February 16, 2025. We continue on the talk of Platform Sutra, the chapter of the doubt. So last time we finished at a few words that said, in this world, we develop greed for what we like and anger toward what we dislike. This behavior distances us from heaven and brings us closer to hell. If we know it's hell, why would we insist on going there? So the talk was ended on February 9, 2025. Again, sharing with what our teacher said. He said, a woman came to see him after divorce. She was filled with regret and said, Master, when I was living with my husband, it felt like I was in hell. I suffered every day from his abuse. It was so painful. But after the divorce, I gradually began to remember the good things about him. Now I often think about his good qualities. Why did I only focus on his bad side back then? I'm starting to regret it. And then our teacher said, if you regret it, why don't you go back and reconcile with him? And she responded, Master, I'm afraid that if we get back together, the same problems will happen again, and I will suffer once more. It's so conflicting. I don't want to go back and be abused, but I also miss his good side. Then our teacher told her, this is the contradiction of human nature. And our teacher told her a metaphor. In our courtyard, there are many rose bushes blooming beautifully. From afar, they are stunning. But when you try to pick flowers, you must be careful. Roses have thorns. The flowers are beautiful, but the thorns can hurt you. If you want to enjoy the flowers, it's best to admire them from a distance. If you want to pick them, you must be patient and skillful. Don't grab them hastily, or you will sure get pricked. After hearing this, she said, Master, I understand now. So, among us, do we have anyone already divorced and now regret it? If you regret it, go back quickly and reconcile. For those who haven't divorced yet, it's best not to do so. After a divorce, you may realize, my wife had many flaws, but she wasn't all that bad. Or my husband was annoying in many ways, but he wasn't that terrible either. So this is human nature. No one is 100% perfect. If we can remove greed, anger, and ignorance from our mind, the world around us truly becomes a pure land, a paradise. Otherwise, no matter how beautiful the world is, even if it's filled with flowers and grand palaces like a royal palace, it still false and illusory. You may live in it, but you'll feel uncomfortable and full of afflictions. If your mind is troubled, even if you're sent to Amitabha's Western Pure Land, you will say, Amitabha isn't that special. The Pure Land is paved with gold. What's so amazing about it? Gold everywhere? What's so rare about it? The only reason we treasure gold here is that it's scarce. If the Western Pure Land is filled with gold, it becomes as ordinary as mud. It's no longer precious. So one time, there was a woman who shared with me about the Western Pure Land. She said, I don't envy or I don't have the urge of going to the Western Pure Land. What if the road is filled with gold and the trees become all kinds of jewelries? It feels like it's so cold. So here, if your mind has problems, even the Pure Land will seem like an ordinary, imperfect world. But if your mind is free of troubles, even this ordinary Saha world will be just like the Western Pure Land. Now we come to this translation of, this is a small part. Get rid of others and self, and Mount Sumeru topples. Now this idea of self and others, if the attachment to the self and others, the confrontation mindset disappear, even Mount Sumeru, well, this is the metaphorical center of the world, will collapse. In this case, Mount Sumeru symbolizes duality and opposition. When opposition vanishes, so does the concept of central, immovable self. If we have no wicked thoughts or unwholesome mental waves, the ocean will dry up. This is a metaphor. When our mind remains in opposition to the external world, it means our ego is vast and unshakable, as if it's as large and solid as Mount Sumeru. When we see the world from the perspective of our self-centered ego, the world will inevitably seem problematic. To satisfy our own desire, we must oppose and compete with others. If we can eliminate the concept of self and others, our huge, immovable ego, like Mount Sumeru, will collapse. So wicked thoughts are essentially the unwholesome activities of the mind. Greed, hatred, and ignorance. When these cease, our sea of afflictions, the turbulent waves of our troubled mind, will completely disappear. Not only will the waves vanish, but the water itself will dry up. This means that all afflictions are gone, leaving nothing behind. Now, the three poisons, as we know, greed, hatred, and ignorance, are called the three toxins. When these toxic mental activities cease, there will no longer be fish or dragons in the ocean of afflictions. Without water, there are no fish, no dragons, and no turbulent waves caused by them. So, as we know, fish and dragons are metaphors for the movements in our minds. Fish represent minor afflictions. Dragons symbolize major afflictions, as destructive as typhoons. Most of us rarely experience the dragon of big afflictions, but our minds are constantly filled with small fish, minor afflictions. It's like having a tropical fish tank in our minds. Sometimes it's nice when these small fish swim peacefully, but when they fight, it becomes a great source of suffering. So here is a simple method to help you calm your mind. Whether you are feeling overly happy or unrelated or deeply troubled and in despair, ask yourself, is my sea of mind being stirred by fish and dragons? Major afflictions are dragons. Look to see how many dragons are moving. Now, this is a method to help us to look into our mind, using the metaphor of fish and dragons. So minor afflictions are fish, perhaps even sharks or small fish. Tropical fish are cute and harmless. Sharks are more dangerous, and it's best not to encounter dragons or sharks. When small fish are moving, it's not a big deal. You can reflect on your mind this way. After this talk, when you experience afflictions, imagine them as fish or dragons. If it is a dragon, observe it until it becomes calm, like a resting dragon, not one that stirs up storms. If it's a fish, imagine it sitting quietly in the water, not fighting with others. With this method, of contemplation, your afflictions will gradually reduce. When we are listening to Dharma, there are two ways to listen. One is that understanding the full meaning of the sutra, hearing the complete teaching from beginning to the end, understanding the text in its entirety. Two is that listening for practical wisdom. Even if you only attend occasionally, listen to the speaker's experience and insights on how to apply the Buddha's teaching in everyday life. Well, most of us likely belong to the second category. And you're here to to listen for practical application rather than to study the complete sutra. Also, there's a difference between listening in person and listening to a recording. When listening in person, you hear the speaker's voice and observe their expressions, experiencing the atmosphere and reactions of others in the room. This adds a dimension of connection and understanding that a recording cannot provide. Okay, so we'll come to the translation again, this part a little bit long. The Tathagata, or the enlightened nature, is on your own mind ground. Mind ground. Emitting a great bright light, which outwardly illuminates and purifies the 6 gates. And breaks through the 6 desire heavens. Inwardly, it illuminates the self-nature and casts out the 3 poisons. The hells and all such offenses are destroyed at once, inwardly and outwardly. There's bright penetration. This is no different from the West. But if you do not cultivate, how can you go there? On hearing this speech, the members of the Great Assembly clearly saw their own natures. They bowed together and exclaimed, "This is indeed good. May all living beings of the Dharma realm who have heard this awaken at once and understand." The Master said, "Good knowing advisors, if you wish to cultivate, you may do so at home. You need not be in a monastery. If you live at home and practice, you are like the person of the East whose mind is good. If you dwell in the monastery but do not cultivate, you are like the person of the West whose mind is evil. Merely purify your mind. That is the West of your self-nature." So I just read the translation. Let's go through a little bit. So if we practice according to the 10 virtues and maintain a calm and peaceful mind, free from afflictions and evil thoughts, our minds will become pure and clear. At that moment, a great light will rise within us. The light is the wisdom of the Buddha, the light of compassion, and can even be considered the state of enlightenment. Those who have seen the true nature and attained Buddhahood will radiate this light outward to purify the 6 senses, namely eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. When the 6 senses become pure, the mind is no longer shaken or influenced by the 6 external stimuli, namely forms, sound, sense, tastes, touch, and thoughts. Reaching this level, we are free from bondage of the 6 desires in the heavenly realm. If you can turn inward and discover your true nature, the 3 poisons, namely greed, hatred, and ignorance, will immediately disappear. Along with that, all karmic obstacles, including those that would lead to hell, will be eliminated. Therefore, when your mind is pure and free from afflictions, and external circumstances can no longer disturb you, that very moment, your pure mind is the Pure Land itself. And there's no difference between this state and the Western Pure Land. You should align your practice with inner illumination and complete clarity inside and out. Without such inner reflections and practice, how can you achieve liberation and enlightenment? So, upon hearing these words from Master Huineng, the 6th patriarch, many listeners experience sudden understanding. Some even attain insight into their true nature and awaken on the spot. Everyone felt deeply moved and grateful, bowing to the 6th patriarch with respect and admiration. After bowing, they praised him, saying, This teaching is so rare and precious. It means that lay people can cultivate the path at home, and naturally, they can also practice when visiting temples. Likewise, monastics can cultivate in a temple, but true practice requires a wholesome mind. If one doesn't cultivate, then even in a temple, one's mind can still be impure. Whether a person is a lay practitioner or a monastic, the key is whether the mind is wholesome or unwholesome. If your mind is wholesome, you don't necessarily need to seek rebirth in the Western Pure Land. You are already there. But if your mind is unwholesome, you won't reach the Pure Land, even if you try. When our mind is pure, the Western Pure Land is not necessarily located in the western part of the earth. It will naturally manifest within our mind. So the so-called the Tathagata of the enlightened nature is on your own mind ground, emitting a great bright light, which outwardly illuminates and purifies the six gates and breaks through the six desire heaven. So we mentioned that our mind should cultivate the 10 virtues. If we practice the 10 virtues, it's as if we are already living in heaven. When we constantly practice the 10 virtues, it feels like being in a heavenly state. If our mind is free from afflictions, it's like a calm ocean without waves, stable and peaceful. When our mind is free from evil thoughts, it is as if the water no longer contains toxic dragons, crocodiles, or fierce sharks. If our mind becomes pure and stable, without afflictions or evil thoughts, a great light will arise from within us. And this light, it's a Buddha's light. It is the light of wisdom and the light of compassion, representing the state of enlightenment. A person who reaches this state can develop the ability of inner illumination and observation. This inner illumination is like a lamp or searchlight that can shine through the darkness, illuminating everything clearly within its range. In this world, no matter how bright a light can be, even if it is as bright as the sun, its range is still limited. Because the sun occupies a specific position and has a definite size, its light is restricted. It cannot extend infinitely. Only the Tathagata's light, which is the Buddha's light, the light which is the light of wisdom and compassion, is truly infinite. This is because it is not a material object. It is not something with a fixed position in space. Therefore, it is called the Great Radiance. All other lights in this world, from the smallest light of a firefly to the vast light of the sun, are limited. None of them can be called the Great Radiance. Only the Buddha's wisdom and compassion can be called the Great Radiance. The phrase Buddha's teaching are boundless, means that the Buddha's wisdom is limitless. According to the platform Sutra, this boundless wisdom and compassion is not limited to the Buddha alone. Every person can achieve it. Each of us can develop the same infinite wisdom and compassion as the Buddha. However, there is a condition. We must first eliminate all delusions, afflictions, and evil thoughts from our mind. Once these are extinguished, the great radiance of our true nature will naturally manifest. So you may have heard people say that narrow-minded individuals are described as having a pea-sized vision. If you want to make it sound even smaller, you could say the vision is as small as a sesame seed, a grain of sand, or even flour particles. The smaller their vision, the heavier their afflictions become. The narrower their perspective, the deeper their subjectivity, and the more limited their objective view, which results in greater suffering. A person who only thinks about themselves, their own problems and interests, without caring about the issues of their family or the people around them, will naturally ignore larger issues such as social problems, national problems, or even global concerns. Such people have a vision as small as grains of sand or flour and are burdened with severe afflictions. These individuals always see themselves as victims, constantly feeling hurt, sacrificed, or mistreated. They believe that society is bad, the environment is hostile, and the world is cruel. Because they only think about themselves and fail to empathize or care for others, they become self-centered. Such people lack wisdom and are constantly overwhelmed by afflictions. Our teacher said, he said he met many people. A lot of them come hoping to receive guidance and clarity from Master Sun Yan to help them find the way through life's confusion. They come with tangled problems, hoping that our teacher can untangle and bring them clarity. But he was asking them, do I really have such ability, such great abilities? And he said, honestly, I don't. And he said, the only difference between me and others is that I teach people one principle, one simple principle. Stop always thinking about yourself. Think about others for a change. Now, let me repeat. Stop always thinking about yourself. Think about others for a change. So don't always focus on how unlucky you are. Look around and ask yourself if others might also be suffering. If you can change that perspective, at least half of your problems will disappear. Of course, as we know, the external problem will still exist. People who want to scold you will keep scolding you, and those who want to bully you will keep bullying you. But internally, you understand. This person is just someone who bullies everyone. Why should I feel hurt? If someone scolds you, that's their anger. It's their issue, not mine. Once you realize this, you will no longer be affected, and your mind will be free from troubles. And again, a teacher shared a story. He said, once I had a student to whom I taught the importance of developing bodhicitta, the Bodhi mind, and nurturing a deep spiritual aspiration. And he was truly sincere and compassionate. Whenever everyone asked for help, he would always assist without exception. For over a year, he became everyone's go-to helper, always lending a hand, no matter the situation. However, after a year of being the fool who helped everyone, he became mentally and physically exhausted. His patience wore thin, and he began to feel resentful. He reflected, thought, why is it that I am always practicing compassion and helping others, but they have become even more self-centered? Eventually, he had a realization. If I practice bodhicitta, others should practice it too. Why am I always helping them without encouraging them to do the same? So when people come to him for help, he started saying, you need to develop bodhicitta too. If I keep helping you, you won't develop your own spiritual aspiration. And soon, he refused to help anyone, swinging to the opposite extreme. Neither extreme is true wisdom. In here, we see that true wisdom means being objective, not subjective. For example, when practicing compassion, don't keep thinking, I'm practicing compassion. When helping others, don't keep reminding yourself, I'm practicing bodhicitta. If you do, then you will end up like the student caught in a mental trap. Okay, so we'll stop here at this moment.
Wow.